Hey everyone, Chakras from Walking here. Welcome to another iteration of Pro Play. Last time we looked at Katarina in competitive play, and today we're looking at some alternative starting items that you probably have seen in some matches. Down in the bot lane, Doranblade has been the traditional starting item for most, if not all, AD carries for several seasons, but recently we have been seeing different starts and a complete shift in what AD carries do. Firstly, there's the Longsword and 3 potions start, which is probably the most common option currently. Comparing Longsword and Doranblade, we can clearly see the trade-off between one versus the other. While Longsword does grant 2 more AD, you lose out on the 80 bonus health and 3% lifesteal from Dorans. However, it's important to factor in the whole buy and look at the concept of effective sustained health. With Doranblade and a potion, you're getting 80 plus 150, so 230 health total if you use your potion. With Longsword and 3 potions, you can restore up to a maximum of 450 health, which in a prolonged scenario where you get to sustain back up with potions equals 220 more health than with Doranblade. But your maximum health is lower without Doranblade, you might say, and this is very true and an argument that can be made against the Longsword start, but the reason why a lot of players are opting into this start is much due to the meta. Currently, the 4 most popular supports are Lulu, Karma, Malzahar, and Zyra. All of these 4 picks are very strong in lane and want to constantly harass you and poke you down with abilities. This makes the Longsword start more attractive, so you can use multiple potions to ensure you can stay in lane. This has an added importance for AD carries that don't run Warlords, as they really need the sustain. On the other hand, in an all-in or gank situation, you're more fragile because you won't have time to regen the 80 health you would otherwise have from Doranblade. To finish our comparison and quickly address something, Doranblade also grants lifesteal, which is extra sustain. However, percentage lifesteal does little for you in the early stages when you haven't stacked attack damage. If you want an extra source of sustain, Cull is a cheap item that you can buy on first back. It will grant more sustain in the early stages because of the 3 flat on-hit health that it grants. The other reason for the Longsword start is because it leads to earlier power spikes and reduces the gold waste. Doranblade has an incredibly low sell price at 180 gold, so you lose most of your early investment. On the other hand, Longsword builds into a ton of items AD carries itemize for. For a lethality user such as Varus or Jhin, you can build it into a serrated Dirk with your first back. For Trinity users such as Ezreal, Longsword builds into Phage. For Essence Reaver users such as Ashe, Longsword builds into Caulfield's Warhammer. The only exception here would be carries such as Caitlyn or Jinx, who typically want a BF sword into a Runon's Hurricane and then Infinity Edge. But even in their case, that Longsword can then be upgraded into a Vampiric Scepter, or a Last Whisper later into the game, or even an early Hex Drinker to deal with magic damage dealers. The other iteration that has shown up recently has been the Boots 4 potion start, and this is mostly for Jhin, but it's a valid option for other champions as well. In general, early boots can help you dodge skill shots, which can be important when laning against a Karma or a Zyra, for example, who have strong presence versus low mobility targets. You will be missing the extra AD for last hits, but instead you have access to 600 health from potions. For Jhin specifically, it helps him close the gap to land his 4th shot in lane for harass, being able to quickly reposition in order to take little damage in return and win trades. Winning trades in the current meta is pretty strong considering how volatile bot lane can be when you have a lead. Just like the Longsword option, the gold doesn't go to waste. Champions like Varus or Jhin can pick up early boots of lucidity or swiftness respectively for the extra movement speed to reposition. Ashe also picks up early Berserker's Greaves on occasion too. Finally, you might have noticed that some Shen players have been starting with Triple Rejuvenation Beads up in the top lane. Now, this is something you won't always see. Versus matchups such as Gangplank or Renekton that can punish him and do a lot of damage early game, you might see Shen default to Doran's shield. But in tank matchups that don't have kill potential and can take him down early, the extra regeneration allows Shen to have an edge, as he traditionally has a weaker early game than the likes of Maokai, Poppy, or Nautilus. Just so you have an idea, 3 Rejuvenation Beads will grant plus 150% base health regen. A level 1, Shen's base health regen is 8.5 health per 5 seconds, and with the beads it goes up to 21 health per 5 seconds. A level 6, 11.5 health per 5 seconds turns into almost 29 health. You get the idea. The extra regeneration allows him to go for more trades and then heal up faster before going in for more. Combined with Grasp of the Undying, this makes him an extremely high sustain top laner. The extra sustain means a lot and saves up a lot of gold you would be investing in potions, for example. The icing on the cake is that Rejuvenation Beads have a pretty high sell price. You buy each for 150 gold and sell each for 105 gold, resulting in a mere 45 gold loss per bead, which is less than a potion. Furthermore, as Shen, you will likely be keeping one, as you will be later building a Tiamat. That's going to be all for today. Let me know if you enjoyed it by leaving a like in the video, as it helps us a lot. See you next time.